All right, do we have it? Hello, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 4 of the SOAPFOX. I am Fox. I'm joined here with Michael in the studio, and Sam is joining us remotely again. You might remember him from a couple weeks ago. How you doing, Sam?
Yeah. I am doing okay, all things considered. I'm
Fair
getting
enough.
my nice Gatorade alternative here, TM, in my formerly alcoholic mason jar drink.
Was that hypnotic, I guess? Alcoholic Gatorade, basically? That's the closest thing I can think of. Well,
No,
anyways.
I was out in the Panhandle of Florida a while back. And there's a place called McGuire's out there, and they give you an Irish wake in a old mason jar,
I've seen
and
I've
then
seen moonshine done in mason jars.
they let you keep the mason jar. So I took it all the way back home, and now that's what I'm drinking some electrolytes out of.
Fair enough. Can your peaches with it too. Well, I'm not going to be too helpful with peaches, but I'm hoping that we might be able to talk about some bigger, more practical, and more maybe slightly more masculine problems. Let's leave that for Grandma. We're
Fair enough.
yeah, we've been talking a little bit about a theme of bravery, and we're here to talk about a lot of different problems that deal with you hit your magical 18 and life's not all it's cracked up to be, and there's a lot of stuff that is just not really taught or shown about, and a lot of things that, gosh, if I had to learn hard ways, and still changing as the world is very weird and chaotic. And we want to talk a little bit about some of those here. We've been on a theme of bravery, and the last time you were here, we talked about the need for bravery in social situations. I think we talked a little bit about the need for friends and what that even means. Do you remember that from last week?
Indeed.
Well, I think where
And
we
I do
left,
remember that indeed.
I think we left off giving people just a little bit of homework to practice a little bit of social interaction. I want to hear from you guys how that went, if any of you guys tried it. But I think that can you help us with a little bit more advice from where we left off about how we can apply bravery to social situations and maybe find ourselves with a little bit more vibrant and thriving friend group since we established why that's healthy for us?
Yeah. So let's say you've been doing these exercises we talked about last week. You've been making eye contact with people. You've been saying hello to people. You've been doing all the things you need to do. Well, you're going to run into a problem, and that is, how do you actually start talking to people? How do you start with a little bit of that charisma and make them feel good for talking to you and not look like a total... My language wants to go colorful. I am not going to go colorful with it.
We do have a swear
Without coming
jar.
across as totally weird.
Go on.
Mm-hmm.
And so this gets into the first principle of charisma and kind of the fundamental principle of charisma, which is people like people that like them.
So we're going to be butt kissers, is that it?
Not quite, because there's a way to do it. Butt kissing is going too far in the other direction, you could call it.
Okay.
Because people want to think that the reality they're in actually is really good. And one of the biggest realities that people want to see is that everybody likes them.
That
If you
sounds
go
like
into
a
butt
fantasy,
kisser
but that
territory...
does sound pretty nice.
Say again, sorry?
So that sounds like a fantasy, but it sure would be nice.
Right? The problem with being a butt kisser, it goes too far in the other direction, where basically you're pouring it on so thick they don't believe you.
Fair enough.
So you're just, you're being friendly, you're being excited to see them.
Flattering.
Well, not even flattering. It's... There's almost... You can split it into two levels. The first level being you're being polite, and the second level being you actually are genuinely excited to see them.
Fair enough.
Fake it till you make it, I
Either of
guess. You know, like,
Yeah,
How do
no,
I-
that's
how do I become
that
excited
is
to see
a
some people? That's
Yeah, and most people I know are. I mean, they want to see people, but they're
especially
terrified to.
yeah,
That's
especially if you're an introvert from the get, like, and you're trying, you're not exactly
Mhm.
excited to be doing this.
yeah. How do I explain this to somebody who like gets so anxiety just trying to dial a phone number? Like that's hard for a lot of people.
right.
How can we be actually genuinely excited for that?
So I think it was Truger who mentioned this. It was fake it till you make it.
Oh boy, I thought that was a joke. All right,
No, it's not.
It
It
is.
actually is a real tactic, and I've used it before.
really?
Oh, it's a very legitimate tactic.
Yeah, you have
Now
to
it
kind of
shouldn't.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead. I'm just thinking of like a job interview, having massive
Mm-hmm.
anxiety about it and thinking that, oh, I'm not good enough or whatever the case may be.
You
What are they
faked a
gonna
job
think?
interview?
No, I basically faked my persona. I faked the confidence. I faked the
Oh,
air of I know what I'm doing. That's what
Mm-hmm.
I faked because underneath it all, I was not confident and I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. But if you can at least get the perception of that, it goes a long way. And so, and eventually, you might just realize that, oh, okay, this wasn't so bad. This wasn't as bad as I was thinking. So you can relax a
Yep.
little and just come into it naturally.
Yep.
So I know exactly what he's talking about.
okay. So you're not talking about like actually faking your resume. You're talking about faking your confidence level and
Sure.
pretending you're actually
Yes.
confident.
Yeah.
Is this like an acting skill? Like you're basically playing a part kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean,
A little bit, yeah.
You can, whatever way you need to psychosis yourself into doing it. Like, I'm not even kidding. I am not even kidding. You can,
Yeah.
Sure.
you can
Okay.
basically like some people need to just pretend like they're a different person because they can't see themselves being that confident person going to a job interview and talking to somebody who's constantly scrutinizing everything about them in that moment.
I'm imagining you like
Mhm.
closing your eyes and thinking, "I am my favorite anime protagonist.
There you go.
I am the best, like no one ever was."
Sometimes you have
And
to
then you go into the
Un-
interview that way.
psych yourself up.
Unironically, that works.
I'm not even kidding.
Hmm
He's right.
You do the ass catching voice and everything.
I mean, I don't use
Yep.
Pokemon, but
Oh, who is it then?
we're not going there.
Okay, fine.
Carry
leave
on.
Leave out the exciting part.
Bro, it's been a hot minute. I
Yep.
don't even remember which protagonist I chose. I got so many anime under my belt.
Wait, you actually did? Okay, I was joking.
So am I.
All right. Oh,
No,
Lord.
unironically, that works.
I suppose.
Here's the prince. Here's what's going on behind it, and it's actually hypnosis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done that
What's
too.
hypnosis?
Or tried.
Hypnosis isn't real, is it? What do you
Oh
mean by
no, it's
hypnosis?
very
Are you?
real.
Oh, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. He's just had the natural confidence his whole life. He's never had to go here. He's never had these struggles.
Oh gosh, yes, I have.
You talk about psyching yourself out or psychosising yourself into it. That's hypnosis. What is-
Honestly, with me, it's not that I've just always had it. Is I've met enough. I guess I had enough managers that had no idea what they were doing, despite being confident. So eventually, just got the well. I can't possibly be worse. So I did kind of get over it that way.
Right?
Just shift your perspective a little.
Yeah, mine was a perspective shift after running into so many people who were incompetent.
Well,
I'm like,
that's-
well, I'm not fantastic, but I'm not that
I mean,
bad.
that's how you grow confidence is through experience and going through situations that make you believe that you're not a fraud. Going through situations that make you believe
Mm.
you're, what is the imposter syndrome? The more you do a thing, the less that will be able to get a stranglehold on your mind because you have experienced enough times where, oh my God, things didn't blow up. Am I actually legit?
That's why finishing things is so important. Got to
Yeah.
get those under your
Yeah.
belt, regardless of what it is. Not just social, whatever project you're working on, finish it out. Have an accomplishment. You'll feel better about yourself. You'll be a better man.
Oh yeah. So getting back to the hypnosis a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
I was doing some coaching about a year ago in terms of getting over some addictions, and his focus was hypnosis. What is hypnosis? It's a way of communicating with your subconscious that gets around your conscious mind.
Yes.
So where a lot of that problem comes for very shy, very introverted people is that analytical mind that most of them have. I know it because I've got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's all prefrontal cortex up at the front of your mind, your very conscious, rational, logical mind.
Okay.
That's why they say it's all in your head.
Yep.
You're creating
This
your
is
own
a way
problem.
of basically getting around that.
Oh,
This
like you're.
hypnosis is a way of getting around that.
It's a
So-
mental block that you have to literally get around.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Speaking of mental blocks, make sure I understand this. So we're talking about basically when you're trying to engage socially, the struggle is that you're thinking too much about your own words before the other person even has a chance to react negatively to it. You're already doing
Yes.
that for them. Is that it?
Well, I mean, this is the kind
That's
of
part of it.
anxiety. It's the kind of anxiety that stops you before you even have the situation where you're with
Oh, you're
people.
gaming it out in your head.
You're
like,
all-
before you
yeah,
even say the
You're
words.
psyching yourself out before you even step through the front door.
They'll probably take it the wrong way.
You know,
Why
so
bother
Mhm.
yeah,
like that?
there's stuff like that. Yeah, that's
Okay,
those are
I'm
the
with you.
the
I'm
first step
tracking.
is the hardest.
Okay.
And so
So
you
we're-
mentioned
so we're gonna use-
channeling your
Mm-hmm. We're gonna use
you
hypnotic.
mentioned channeling your favorite anime protagonist. Here's how you do that to maximum effect. It's
Put on your lab
you go
coat.
into the daydream state
Costume.
basically.
Repeat that
You go
for
into
me.
the Hold on,
Dream
can y'all hear me?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can
yeah.
hear you.
I think y'all are I'm getting y'all cutting in and out here a little bit.
Uh-oh. Well, we can hear you okay.
Okay. So you mentioned channeling your favorite anime protagonist, and that is the technique of visualization, which is to get into a daydream state where you become that character. And since
It's
you've
like-
already seen how this character acts with all these different situations and how they respond to various things that come up, if you are that character, you already know how you're going to react. And so what this does is it gets completely around the conscious mind.
Hmm.
We do it as kids.
Yeah.
Ever
We do?
when boys play with their action figures, you are Batman.
Okay.
You are the Jedi. You are whoever you're.
Mhm.
You know, whatever icon. I'm Spider-Man. Like,
Mhm.
you know, you insert yourself in the persona
you
of that character. Yeah,
You
no,
role play.
it's absolutely.
Yeah.
kind of.
And this is
not.
this is
I'm
why
guessing not
that-
quite so totally, but kind of. I think
that's
I
why
think I'm
the
following.
subconscious is a lot of times called your inner child.
Haven't heard that. Interesting.
Oh, you've not heard that? Are you kidding me? What?
I've heard
No.
it. I've heard it.
Interesting. Okay.
Your inner
I do got to remember
child.
every so often that I am very far down the esoteric rabbit hole.
Yeah, I've heard it in part because of that.
Hmm.
You know.
I think I don't know. I feel like with most people, it's getting their inner child to stay in. That's the hard
Oh
part.
my god. I could see that.
We need to man up here, not child down.
So you got your subconscious conscience. What are the other ones? They call them the id, the
The ego and the super ego.
yeah. Are those?
Those aren't ones I'm as familiar with. I'm more familiar with conscious, subconscious. The
Then
only
let's
one
not
I
go in the
might be
rabbit
able
hole.
to go to is ego, which is your concept of self in the very formal definition.
Yeah. Well, let's continue
But-
down your
Yeah.
path before we go down
Yeah.
the wrong rabbit hole.
Right? So with that visualization there, with that going into the subconscious and almost a fantasy, basically, you're getting around your conscious mind and you're just becoming that character. And here's the real good part of it, is you can become any character you want. And what makes it even better is if it's a character you emotionally, very important emotionally, resonate with. Why does that matter? Because the main way that the subconscious communicates with the conscious mind is through emotion.
It's literally a WWJD.
What?
It's a what
Yeah.
would Jesus do? It's a what would my idol do? It's a what would the person I look up to do? Because it doesn't have to be some superhero fantasy character. It can be somebody like a mentor. Okay, what would Randall do in this situation? He's a very confident person who I really respect. How would he behave in this situation? And so you separate your anxiety as a result of trying to just you don't even have to understand why he does it, but you just do it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is that difficult for engineer brains like me? We have no emotions at all.
It can be
I'm
difficult to
stoic as
start.
Bruce Wayne.
Well, I don't even think he at the at the end of the day, then he has less of the mental trip ups because he's not as what do they say with those
He's completely
personality
desensitized
no,
because
no.
of trauma.
It's
no.
it's those that personality type, not neurotic, it's turbulent. You're not turbulent. You're not as prone to self-doubts or anxiety over the self-confidence thing.
Yes,
You
I am an
see it.
assertive personality type, but that makes me predisposed to be a little bit better at confidence. What about the people who aren't?
Well, that's what
And
we've
they're
been
the
talking
thinking
about.
type, right?
Yep.
Well, that's
They're
exactly
most-
what we've been talking about. Is
Yeah.
is the overthinking type.
If it's people that, well, we were talking that you do it through channeling emotions, but what about people who aren't as emotional and struggle with that? I mean, that doesn't make sense, really. If you're a pretty literal person, you're an engineer brain, like dressing up as Batman. That's just silly.
Do
Like,
I
what are you
need to
talking about?
tag out for Travis so he can explain his reasoning behind it? Because that's him. You're talking
He's
about him.
Batman? No, he's not.
What are you talking about?
Have you seen him?
You
he's
literally
a
just
frickin' twig.
described him. You literally just described the analytical robot type.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, if you want to get Travis in here, I've actually done this exercise with him.
Oh boy!
This was the exercise we did on the first call. So here we go.
Do we want to get Travis in? He's in the studio today.
I can tag out.
Well, I mean, could y'all share a mic and we could have
we'll give it 5 minutes.
Okay.
To give him time to get ready. He was not prepared.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we didn't put him on the spot or anything. Okay, we'll come back to this.
Okay, we'll come back to it. Okay. So I'll get off the hypnosis thread, which basically, yes, it works. Also, this is why you have to be very careful with the movies and music you consume.
Yes.
Because both of those are incredibly hypnotic.
Oh yeah, the subconscious messaging that you get from stuff like that. It's real and it's like endemic. They've gotten very good. In fact, it's not just in your movies, it's in your TV commercials.
What sort of stuff is?
It's in your water.
It's in your water. Yeah, probably.
Your fake Gatorade.
Well, it's
what's in the water?
I mean, look,
we're worried about what media we consume.
If you're
what?
if it's a very
violence,
openly
video games cause violence.
If it's a very openly well-known idea that fast food restaurants will put certain ingredients in there to make you more addicted to the product so that you continue to come back for more, it's the same logic. They have think tanks that they've basically sussed out the human brain and what ways they can get you to, remember their catchy jingle. Or all that kind of stuff is 100% science-based studies to try and get you more likely to buy a product or...
But what do we want to avoid? What is it that we're...
Because this is not necessarily something you can avoid, but it is something you can use to your benefit.
Well, you said we need to be careful
glorify
of what
God
media
and
we
enjoy Him
consume.
forever.
Like what is it that we're trying to avoid in doing that? I just want to clarify that.
So this goes into Philippians 4:8, where Paul commands us to think on all these various things, whatsoever is true, good, noble, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Because it's hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's saying if you continuously think about these things, eventually that's going to become your default programming.
Oh, so basically it's kind of like if you meditate on media that's just gives you subconscious bad ideas, it's going to eventually trickle into
Yep.
your thought patterns.
Think about those
Yep.
those people who listen to not podcasts, but like an audio tape of self-affirmations.
Isn't that good to
Uh-huh.
think good about myself?
You are worth it. You are strong. You
Gosh, that would
are
be
confident.
embarrassing.
It might be, but like
But it works.
it works.
Mm-hmm.
It can work for people. It is a little
Here's a good
Is that a
story.
good thing or a
Here's a
bad
good
thing that
story
it
of
works?
here's a good story of how this actually got used to basically astroturf a song.
Propaganda.
So there's a
There's
song called
propaganda we're talking about.
Outcast
Sorry, go
by
ahead.
Yeah, there's a song called Outcast by the band. No, the band is Outcast. The song is Hey Ya. And it got
Okay.
released in the early thousands, and no one really liked it. It was kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very unique stylistic choices. And so they saw it kind of going down on the radio, and they thought, oh, God, we're going to lose all our freaking money. So what they did is whenever they would play this song, is they would play a song before and after it that was already a huge hit.
Mm-hmm.
So something like Celine Dion or whoever was popular at the time.
Gotcha.
I get
And they
it.
saw that the
Positive
ratings for the song
association.
started to go up.
Okay. I see what we're talking about here. Healthy mental balance will be healthy for your subconscious.
Well, they
Mhm.
used positive associations before and after the song to make you associate
Yep.
things positively with the song.
Yep, I'm
So
following. Okay.
that makes sense. Travis is ready.
Yes.
Yeah.
Travis, which was the anime superhero that
Oh my goodness.
learned to
Hanging
assume?
out.
Mine's Hoen Kiyoma.
Well, the funny thing about this is that I didn't actually do that at all. And I'm actually so far down this road where I would say that I can't at all do any sort of visualization in that way because for some reason I have no acting skill.
Hmm.
And I have found this over many years. Attempts to play tabletop RPGs never went well. That just didn't work for me. So instead of doing that, I found that what I ended up having to do was I had to break the mental association in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
In what way was that?
Well, I don't know. That's a little bit of a deep topic for this podcast because there was a whole spiritual thing with that. So.
Okay.
That's fair.
Sam, where? I'm trying.
I
to remember where
will
we're going
go
with
ahead
this.
and run us through the exercise that me
Okay.
and Travis actually did on the first call.
Okay. Let's hear it.
So Travis, do you remember the verbal spew exercise?
Yes, I do.
So do you want to give Fox a very brief rundown of what that is and how it works?
So the basic idea of the exercise
Are you picking up?
The basic idea of the exercise is that what you want to do is you want to remove the blockage between your head and your heart. And the way you do that is by just saying whatever comes to mind without stopping. You do this for a minute, 2 minutes, 20 minutes, however long it takes. And if you do that, you will find that this weird tense feeling that you get kind of in your throat will go away.
Oh, I see. That kind of makes some sense.
Mhm.
You're focusing on actually doing the thing before you even worry about am I actually doing it right, the right words, the right tone, and all that. Sounds like
That's a part of it.
Sounds like the vocal warm-ups that singers do.
That one's a little bit more like stretching. This one is
This one's
more connecting emotions to your body.
This one's psychological stretching. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah,
I got you.
yeah. That's a good way to put it. Or in this case, if you've never had that connection made before, this might be your first psychological strength training.
Yep. Psych warm up. People do that. People psych themselves up for performances. Got to get into character. All right.
Yep. So, tell you what, I will go ahead and grab my phone here, set a timer for a minute, and I will just start saying whatever comes to mind. It's actually going to be a good exercise for me to do since I've been fighting this a little bit as of late. And none of this has to be coherent. It could just be random babble. It could be a word said over and over and over again. The entire point is to shut off your logical brain and just start talking. And that starts reconnecting whatever you're feeling to whatever comes out of your mouth.
That makes sense. Okay.
All right, so I've set myself up for a minute here.
All right.
And with that, we're going in 3, 2, 1. I'm not sure if you ever heard of the concept of infinity, but there's some really, really interesting things around it. So we all know about the sideways 8, which is the traditional infinity, but there's a lot more infinities beyond that. So for instance, the total set of integer numbers, 1 to infinity, is an infinity, right? But what if we now include the negative numbers, that is actually a bigger infinity? Okay, so we've got two different sizes of infinity there. Now, how big is the infinity between 1 and 2 because of all those decimal numbers? Well, that would be an even bigger infinity than the two infinities I mentioned afterwards. So what is the biggest possible infinity we can get from the set of all integer numbers? Well, that is what we would call Aleph, which is the Hebrew word, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Alef. Now, if we start rearranging all these sets into different ways, that actually gets us another kind of Aleph, which we call Aleph 2. Now, we can rearrange this set in a totally different, there we go, that's a minute.
I'm embarrassed to admit I understood everything you talked about. I never heard of Aleph, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. And so what triggered that for me was I did the countdown of 3, 2, 1. And the first thought that popped into my mind was, oh, integer set. Integer set is connected to this concept of infinity. Let me talk about that, and we're going.
My mind went to Toy Story.
So you want to give that one a try, Fox? And Travis, if you want to hop in here in a minute. I already know you've done it, so I will leave that to your discretion.
I think one demonstration is good enough for folks. Where do we go with it after that?
Huh?
What's the next part of the exercise, or is that the end of it? The rebuilding.
That's the exercise.
Awesome. Okay. This sounds funny, but like this actually works. I like it. This is very good. What's the best way to practice this? Is this something you do like in front of a mirror, or?
Doing it in front of a mirror would actually be really good because you're getting now that visual stimulus of looking at another person.
Kind of. I mean, that sounds a little intimidating to me. When I look in the mirror, it's like really handsome, and like it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Well, what's the classic scene from the American Psycho movie where he's looking in the mirror and just like finger gunning himself?
I haven't seen it. Sorry.
I haven't either.
A half dozen movies like that.
I mean, I don't know. The type of person that we're talking about might look in the mirror and be terrified because they don't really like looking at themselves in the mirror.
That's true. I guess self-conscious people kind of do. I hadn't thought of that.
So you might
might want to
just start without
you
the
have to
mirror
LARP.
at all, just in your room.
Yeah. Well, this gets back to a phrase that I heard from a pastor I listened to a lot. And he said, you have to LARP before you can fly.
Now,
and that is, you have to, it's fake it till you make it. If you have to look at yourself in the mirror and just say positive things about that guy in the mirror, that'll work.
Okay. That does make some sense. I want to continue on with how we can apply this or other strategies, but last thing that I want to touch on, because I know some people that do this a little bit, but I'm not sure this is entirely positive. I know some people who take the whole "I'm an anime character" thing a little bit too seriously, and there's nothing wrong with anime conventions. They're fine. I've been to them, but they will be a totally different person. Like they will be outgoing, extroverted, like even charismatic when they're in some giant cosplay. But then once they take it off, they go back to being these timid losers. No offense, I'm not going to name any names, but like that's. I almost feel like the escapism is actually becoming an unhealthy thing because they can only do it that way. Is there some stopgap that we need to have or some safeguard, or is that actually like the best way to start and we work our way to not literally needing a full costume and then can just do it, in front of the mirror?
That would be my preferred method because I would much rather whoever I'm working with get out of that old habit first. Just so they get that quick win and know they can do it.
Get out of which old habit first?
The old habit of not being extroverted or outgoing at all.
Fair enough. Okay, if that's what it takes.
Yeah. So I would much prefer that we go too far in the right direction, then pull it back a little bit.
I think that maybe what's missing here is the mental connection between, hey, look at you when you're in that costume versus look at you when you're not, and how differently you act. You can actually do this even if you don't have the costume on.
Yeah, I guess it just worry
Yep.
about people using it as a crutch too much because I've seen some people who do
Yeah.
that, not necessarily even costumes. I knew this one kid who was in high school, very socially awkward, and he put on this Adam Sandler persona, and he was the class clown, and he was pretty outgoing. His jokes got old because all he could do was really emulate this other person. But it got him out of his shell. But the problem is he never learned anything past that. So that's all he could do was either
Right.
clam up or be a Adam Sandler. He never got past that.
And this gets into a little bit of phase 2 here, where you're creating that new character, and then you're reincorporating it into who you are. So
see.
you can go too far and lose that sense of self. And this is what all the superhero movies are about, right? It's I've got my normal life and I've got this secret life as a absolutely epic superhero. And how many good episodes come back when these two things come in conflict? So what the resolution there is to integrate both of those people into one person. It is to say that this introvert-extrovert dynamic is completely bullcrap.
Really?
I am choosing to be the secret third thing, which is both at once.
Okay. Be whichever the situation calls for. Okay,
Correct.
sounds good.
The dangerous side to that, then, is that can become manipulative.
How so?
Because at that point, you're putting on a face to respond to whatever you're getting to, and it becomes, to what end are you doing that?
This is sort of why I get a little bit uncomfortable around people who are good at acting. I mean, you kind of
Right.
end up with this. You kind of get in there, and you're talking to them, and you're going, "Am I actually talking to them, or am I just talking to a character that they're putting on because it's convenient or useful?"
Sounds like somebody with like multiple personality disorder. Which of you am I speaking to
Right.
today? I can see that.
I think that's sort of the.
Well, I mean, I'm not entirely joking. Like that kind of would be like that. Like I can't tell.
Yeah.
Which
in
of
this
you are
case-
you today?
In this case, it's just that one of them, it's a conscious thing that they can put on or take off, and the other one, maybe they can't.
That's kind of creepy.
Yep.
I guess maybe that's probably the warning against escapism. Escapism is you become that too much and you lose the self, and we don't want that. We want to be able to draw upon. We want to be able to draw upon an extroverted persona, a charismatic persona, and add that into ourselves, not put a
Yep.
mask on per se. And we use that to hypnotize ourselves to get past all those things that cloud our heads before we can even start talking to people, all those doubts, all those overthinking everything, when
Yep.
what we really just need to do is start talking.
I remember when I was younger, I mean, I kind of had problem with that too, where I realized the potential for manipulation, and I didn't want to put it on because I knew that I could go too far on it.
Interesting.
And so that's one of the biggest dangers of doing this sort of thing, is that it is very acidic. It can, in fact, burn you pretty freaking good. Oh, it'll burn away anything that you don't want that you don't want there, but it'll also just as well burn away things that are good about you.
Like what?
So, for instance, when I am in a more introverted mood, we'll call it, I can get very focused very quickly. I can get very intense very quickly, and those are good things in certain situations. It is not good when I have just met a young woman and I'm trying to get to know her.
Okay.
And lo and behold, building a business over here on the side and doing Twitter and working a job and all these other things, being very driven is a good attribute. It can become a little bit difficult when I'm having to switch from extrovert back into introvert, depending on where it is.
That's actually one of the things I've noticed as well, is when I am when I'm doing something technical and then I immediately drop myself into a social situation afterwards, it is so much harder to get going.
That doesn't surprise
Right.
me. It's hard for anyone, I think. That's a pretty hard gear shift.
Yes.
We're going
And
from
so-
fifth gear to reverse.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's two totally different parts of the brain you're having to activate and do with no warning, no spool up time, none of that.
It takes like 20 minutes
But-
before anything really starts
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah, more if you've got
Yeah,
ADHD.
definitely.
Okay, I gotcha.
I actually need to consider that a little bit because I've been having some issues at small group with this, because when I teach from the Bible, I tend to teach in a very technical manner,
Mhm.
in a very researched and precise manner.
But you got to be there to relate to the people in the group.
Right. But afterwards, that's not happening. It's very loose, very casual, very go with the flow of the moment.
Interesting.
And there is like a 30-second transition time between those two. So I need to figure out some sort of stimulus I can do to tell my brain time to shift.
You'd probably make a lot of money for that drug.
All right. Well, here's the drug. It's called dopamine, and your brain produces a lot of it naturally.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. God,
By the way,
so-
figuring out how to trigger dopamine whenever you want is an incredibly powerful tool. I have
Really?
used it to really help break some addictions.
that's interesting. We should probably save that for
Mhm.
another time, but that sounds like it could be
Definitely.
very useful.
Oh yeah. So,
Okay.
but that aside, I will go back to where we were 30 minutes ago in terms of how do you start talking to people.
Yes. All right. So we got
we definitely went down a bit of a rabbit hole there.
Yes. We got that we get ourselves psyched up, put on a bit of a persona, and get used to the idea of actually getting sound out. What else can we do
Mhm.
to actually start?
Once you start being able to get the sound out, you're 80% of the way there.
Really?
Now it's
That sounds like a Windows taskbar
that's
to me. I don't know if I believe that.
right? The rest of it is just figuring out how to shape it. And so this is something I discovered when I was doing a lot more of public speaking coaching, is most of the communication isn't in the actual words you say. It's in how you say it and how you present it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean by the shaping. The actual words you say are the absolute last thing on the list. So I'm going to do two different things here. One will be actually intelligible words, and the other's not going to be a word at all. But I want you to tell me at the end side, which one did you feel warmer, more attracted to? So first one, hey Fox, real good to see you. How you doing today? Second one, hey, what's up?
Sounds like second one sounds a little bit more warmer. I can't
Mhm.
say attracted out loud. I'll get ridiculed for it, but for stating a preference.
As you have the bubble hearts going on your Discord every time you, you start speaking.
Hey, nobody can see that.
Yet.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
on to you. Gotta watch out.
gosh.
Right? But that's the difference there. Is now you have to start learning how to shape it. So when you start being able to shape it sonically, that's the pitches there. You can
Okay.
start conveying a lot more emotion, and it is the emotion that where all the charisma is, all the likability is.
How do I do that when I can't even think of the words to say? Like I can make sound come out, but like I'm not even focused on pitch because I'm like I don't even know what to say. That's weird.
Well, here's the thing, is that you've actually already got the good habits established, so established you're not even thinking about them. How do I know? I can hear it.
Well, maybe me, but not everybody.
True. The biggest rule of thumb, or the biggest rule to avoid, is don't be monotone.
Mm.
Lo and behold, monotone is boring, and one of the biggest rules of charisma is don't be freaking boring.
That's a pretty good rule. Crap, now I'm going to go
Yeah.
back on this recording like, wait, how was I sounding?
Right?
Yeah,
You
it's
definitely
something you
don't
can
sound
work on, though.
monotone, and here's why.
Mm-hmm.
The first one you have is that you go up and you go down in the pitch of your voice. And I just did it right there.
Yep, I noticed that.
I was exaggerating it a little bit to get the effect across.
And that just makes it sound better?
Yes, it's that simple.
This
If you
sounds
can
like
vary,
this sounds like how the music conductor would be like, this one more time, but this time with feeling.
It's actually very
Yes.
similar to that. It's almost exactly the same.
So now we got to define feeling.
yeah, right?
Okay.
And to be fair, a lot more of this is actually conveyed in the body language, but the way I've seen the breakdown is 70% of the feeling is in the body language, 20% is in the tone, and 10% in the words.
Is
And
there
where you
something
get the
is there something I can
Huh?
do to kind of cue myself into using a different tonality? Like, I'm not extremely monotone by default. I can if I'm very
oh, you're the
tired.
opposite of monotone.
Oh, good. But let's say I'm kind of low energy, or especially if I'm kind of nervous about talking, my voice is probably going to be pretty soft, and it's going to go down
Mhm.
to like my throat voice because I'm not actually projecting my voice like a singer would. Is there something that I can remember, like something? Oh yeah, I need to do that. That's going to get me into the head of, oh, I need to raise my voice a little bit and remember, talk like
Right.
I'm, like I'm in front of a camera or something, because I am. And what's
You're within 10% of what I was about to say here.
uh-huh.
And so I stole this from Chris Voss, the author of Never Split the Difference.
Okay.
He was a hostage negotiator for the FBI for many, many, many years.
Oh my. I could use him.
And his way of understanding what type of tone to use came down to 3 characters. The first one is the beggar, who's always looking for validation, who makes it seem like he's always asking a question, always
Mhm.
ending on a higher pitch than he started at.
Ah, okay.
We don't want to be the beggar. The beggar comes across as very needy and very repulsive.
That
You also don't
makes
want to
sense.
be the opposite of that, the warlord, which is always ending a sentence on a lower pitch than he started.
That, I don't know,
It
that
comes
sounds
across
kind of
as
cool. And every sense
it's
with a
getting in the
grunt.
right direction.
Okay. Sounds good.
Getting in the right direction for where most guys are. But it's not our final destination.
All right.
Now with the warlord, it's a lot of comes across as my way or the highway. You're going to do it this way. There is no argument or chance to debate.
Oh, so that's like the opposite. Instead of insecure, we're too assertive.
Yes.
Okay. So the third one, I'm guessing, is somewhere in between there.
The third one knows how to use both.
Okay.
And this guy he calls the late night radio DJ. So like you said, pretend like you're about to go on camera, pretend like you're about to go on air.
Interesting.
So that's the
Do
if
people know
that
how to
is
do
the
that?
persona. Huh?
Sorry, that's a silly question, but do people know how to do that? Like layman, the average person watching, do people know
So,
how to do that, you
I
think?
mean, here's the funny thing about this is if you can picture it, if you can hear somebody doing it in your head, you know what to do.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, even if people like feel embarrassed doing it, everyone knows what a radio voice sounds like. Listen to the baseball
Oh, yeah.
game.
Precisely.
Line drive to deep left field. It's going to the end of the bleachers. Goodbye, baseball.
There you go. And in doing that, you hit all the variations in tone you needed to hit.
I did? Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
It's going into the bleachers, it's going past third base, and it's out of here. Did you hear it kind of rise and go back down?
It almost follows the trajectory.
That's weird. I didn't
Yep.
even think about it. I was literally just trying to think of something I would have heard on the radio as a kid, listen to the Mariners games.
Precisely. That's exactly what I was saying. See, if you can
Yeah.
if you can imagine it and then you mimic it, you're doing it. You did it. Good job.
Okay. I see.
Yeah. And so that nicely ties back into all the hypnosis stuff we were talking about earlier. Because if you can take on that persona of the late night radio DJ, you automatically have the pattern of, oh, I need to talk this way.
Gotcha. Probably not quite as excitable as the home run
Right.
announcer, but I think I get the picture. Radio DJ sounds a little bit better. Or maybe he's just broadcasting golf. That sounds boring enough to not be overly exciting.
I always prefer the jazz example of welcome to 102.5. Tonight on your midnight ride home, we have the smoothest jazz from Stevie Ray Vaughan and his one-off hit with I don't remember his name. It was Colin. Anyway, here we go.
You're gonna have to come up with one more example for all the tenors out there.
Yeah, really.
For
But
all the
actually,
what? The
that
tenors?
almost
For all the tenors out there.
yeah, really. That's me. That almost sounds a little bit like somebody doing it for the first time. Like I don't want to say underconfident, but that sounds like the throat voice, kind of the soft. Like I'm not really used to doing this, but I'm gonna give it a try.
Right.
It's a little bit. It's
And-
more about the smoothness, I think, really, and the variation in pitch. I mean, it's both of those things at the same time. You can do it. You can do it down in the lower register, and you can do it up in the higher register, and it mostly ends up being where you just prefer to talk.
This might not be helpful, but when I think of I think of Patrick Warburton, the voice actor, because all he does is radio voice. Every single line he has in every film is like that.
Mhm.
He's like a
Yeah,
like Kronk
no,
from The
that's-
Emperor's New Groove. That you see that sky today? Talk about blue.
Yeah. But even then, listen to how you said it. You heard the variation in pitch.
Well, yeah, that I'm just imitating it. That's one of his lines, but yeah, it's a good example.
Yeah. And that is how you start conveying some of that warmth. Is you start out with a very excitable tone, usually high pitched and talking very, very fast, and you bring it down into a lower pitch and slow it down. I'll do what I did earlier, which is, "Hey, Fox, good to see you."
Hey. Okay, I gotcha.
You're starting with that high pitch very fast, and you're stretching it out and going into a low pitch.
Okay. I'm still imagining myself doing that. Okay, so I've got two personas I'm putting on here. One is the one is the confidence persona. That's, I can do this. I'm the mad scientist. I'm the superhero. Whatever.
Mhm.
I'm faking my confidence till I make it. And then I've got the vocal persona now. I'm gonna do the radio DJ or the pitcher and catcher playing catch radio announcer. But I still got to figure out the words to say. I'm a little stuck on that. Is that something that we can talk about, or is there someplace else that we should go with tone still?
We're good on tone, at least as a primer.
Okay.
And now let's go into the actual words to say.
Okay.
Because this is the most
I need a
advanced part of it,
script.
because you actually have to re-engage your conscious brain to do this.
Oh yeah, that's tricky.
So we've gotten around the conscious brain, and we've got a way to work around it. Now we have to get it in line with what we're doing.
So So up to this point, maybe I'd be practicing by like literally having a script and trying to put on those personas, in the mirror or something. See if I can get the voice right and get the sound reconnected from my heart to my brain. But now I need to take the script away. I need to go off script and have a real conversation with a real human.
Ah!
Yeah, they're scary.
Oh!
No.
They're so scary.
No, only the girls.
Amen. I feel that one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Travis, you'll relate to this very good, is the next part of charisma, of being likable there, it comes back to people who like them. What is a good way to show that how do you know that someone likes you? One of the biggest ways is they ask about your interests. They ask about you, and they make it about you.
Well, can't I just tell them, I like you?
This is part of the game of charisma where it's not always direct.
Rats. Things would be so much
You don't wanna
easier
be
if
the
it
warlord.
was.
That would be the
Oh,
the
very
speech equivalent of being the warlord.
Very
Right.
interesting. Yeah, you're right. It would. It's funny thing. When I said that, I knew that was wrong, but you actually put why very well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So we want to be a little bit more indirect.
Yes. We want to put out the possibility that's there, but we want to feel it out first.
It sounds like we're getting into all those romantic things, like hinting and all those things that doing the
Yes.
dance, all those things that
There is a
engineer men
reason
can't
that you want to
stand.
make a bunch of male friends first before you try and go for the women.
That's right. Set my campaign on easy mode, please, before I get New Game Plus.
Right. Right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And you can practice this with the guys a little bit. You can learn to kind of weave this thread.
Are there guys?
With the women,
Actually,
ahead.
before we go further, is there a certain type of person that's easier to try it on first?
Extroverts.
Oh yeah, because
Take
they'll
it from
carry
me.
you.
Take it from me, because yeah,
They'll do the work
those
for
were the
you.
people I could talk to before I got any coaching.
That's interesting.
Right?
I was thinking the opposite, actually. I was thinking the nerds, because they're, kind of timid. They're not intimidating. But no, you're
There's
right.
one edge
They won't.
case, but
They won't help you carry their side of the conversation. You
Right.
got to do it for them.
there is one edge case to that. But I
Correct.
think we'll get to that in a little bit.
Okay. Cool.
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna practice on. Oh my, the extroverts. Got it.
Yes. And this is where you connecting into your heart is very good, because you can learn to enjoy it and just be swept up in the moment.
Because we end up doing more listening than talking.
Yes, and that's the end goal. Is to do twice as much listening as we do talking.
Well, hold on. I thought we were trying to learn how to be social. Our problem is we're not talking enough. What is this coming from?
Correct. Because, like I just said earlier, someone likes you when they talk about your interests. Now we're just flipping that equation. You're conveying to someone else, hey, I like you. Let me know about you.
Okay.
And now they are reading that same signal of, he's asking about my interests, therefore he must like me. And if he likes me, people like people who like me, therefore I like him.
Why
Run
would
the
they?
system in reverse.
Why would they assume that?
Yes.
I'm clearly just trying to get blackmail on them.
And here's the fun part, is the CIA actually uses these exact tactics to get the blackmail.
I was joking, but I guess you're right. People really do like to talk about themselves.
Undercover journalists
Yes.
do this too.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about that. It's really amazing how much people love to confess things. That's
Yeah.
Everybody wants to confess.
I don't like this.
There's a channel I watch called Everyday Spy. Andrew Bustamante is his name. And he was talking about doing this and some of the models he got trained by with the agency to get this information. Now, he was
Okay.
using it for espionage purposes. We're using it to build connection.
Those really aren't all that different if you know how
It's
much
really
about how
not.
that works. Okay. Interesting. I didn't mean to go on the tangent, but that ended up being surprisingly relevant, actually. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've established people have an irrational, deep-seated root to want to talk about themselves. That's very
Yes.
interesting. Okay. And we're
Yes.
going to exploit
have
that
no-
to make social connections.
You have no idea how deep that root runs.
You know all those villains that monologue and have to tell you every last detail about their plan? It's the same thing.
Oh my gosh.
It's the same thing.
Oh my gosh, you're right. You get
No,
the
Mr.
villain
Bob, it is your
monologuing.
time
They
to die.
can't help it because they want to talk about their amazing plan. They want to confess that they want to talk
They
about
worked
it.
hard on that plan.
Well,
Yes, they did.
This is
and
this
you're
is
trying
also
to
why
ruin
serial
it. It's
killers
so
almost
rude.
always get caught. Because
Because
if they get away with the perfect crime,
You have to tell somebody about it.
You're right. I got to
Yeah.
tell
Have to
somebody.
Brag.
How can my mother be proud of me if I don't tell her how I did it?
exactly. It is a
Okay.
deep-seated root in every human to want to talk about themselves.
Okay.
The charismatic people just let them do it.
So basically, our exercises that's why 80% of the work is just getting yourself to start talking to somebody, because all you got to do is basically
Yeah.
just prompt them. You could probably have a whole conversation just by asking a question or two.
I've
done it.
Get their motor flapping. Oh my!
And this leads us right into the edge case that I mentioned earlier, which is gonna steal a little bit from you here though, is the idea of a golden topic. Some sort of a thing that somebody really wants to talk about, they are incredibly interested in it, and nobody will give them room to talk about it. If you find one of those for somebody, you can get them to talk to you for hours.
Finally, somebody I can talk about optimizing SQL databases with. I've been waiting forever for this.
Exactly.
If you can find yourself a young woman that does that, put a ring on it instantly.
Oh my gosh, yeah. If they would, I already would have.
Good luck,
her.
but you know.
Yeah.
They're all in the CS department. I'm calling it now.
So you're saying there's a chance.
So I'm telling you, they're already taken already. They're not gonna last. Okay,
Well,
I
here's
gotcha.
your in on this is that if you have social skills as a computer science major, you're light years ahead of all the other guys.
What?
This is true.
Oh, sorry. I thought I misunderstood that as the social skills of a computer science major.
That's a little different.
Right.
We got a
I
got
think
a
I'm an
null error
exception to
there.
that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a total social outcast. I don't fit in with all the rest of the nerds. I'm weird and awkward around them because I'm not awkward.
Right?
At least not too awkward.
I feel that one.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that one. So that's again, and way you do these prompts is by asking very good questions. They have to be open-ended, meaning they can't be answered with yes or no. If it takes
Oh.
someone less than a sentence to thoroughly answer the question, you've done it wrong.
That sounds like all these guys that complain about dating apps, and if they get a response at all, it'll be like one sentence. Is that what they're doing wrong? Maybe.
It's not necessarily. It's a two-phase thing there. Because
Mhm.
I've also noticed that if I ask a good question, I know I ask good questions.
No,
And I
phase
get
one
that
is not
one-word
using dating
response.
apps, but
Yeah.
trying to help the ones that can't help themselves. I'm
Right?
sure some are listening.
But if I get those one-word responses, I know she's not interested.
If you're asking good questions and you get one-word responses, she's not interested. You sure
Yep.
she's not just awkward?
Pretty confident.
Okay.
Because I've got myself dialed in to where I will ask about things I know she's interested in.
Okay, so we're at the point where even if she's interested, she's probably not worth it because she's not putting the effort in.
Correct.
I guess it doesn't matter at that point which it is. Either way, it's not going to happen. Okay.
For instance, if I ask and I've had this happen, I'm not going to reveal names,
Of course.
but I asked a young woman about how she met her friends. And you think, okay, well, if you've met a lot of friends, you probably kind of like them, right? And there's probably a good story there.
Mm-hmm.
And she responds with church. One word.
Thanks
like, are
a
you
lot.
kidding me?
Where do you meet women? Church. Like, okay, need a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
It's a good start.
And so at that point, I'm like, okay, this conversation is obviously over. I won't pursue this.
Mm-hmm.
So just didn't even get off the ground.
Fair enough. Yeah, you're right. I think I know a few people who are socially awkward enough that might not be able to manage that, but they're probably just going to have to figure that out because they need to give more than one words to have a social relationship. We'll send them to
and I'm
take
gonna
your
send
classes. Next time
gonna
a
send-
friend who has a one-word response on his dating apps and he's sure that she's actually interested, I'm gonna tell him send the girl to Sam. He'll teach her how to formulate sentences and to have conversations.
We'll teach her
She'll
some
fix
Riz.
you up. Yep, that's right. That's right.
And of course, the thing is,
And
you can
I'm
play
putting this one out for all the single young women who are listening to this, if there are any. Number one, pretty sure every man here on this podcast is single, Christian, incredibly hardworking, and pulling in some bank. Second off, if you're giving him one-word answers, any guy you're interested in, and he's asking good questions, that's not on him. That is on you.
I don't even think I give one-word answers like when I don't get good questions.
Well, that's
And
what
like-
I was actually going to go into, is you can run that system in reverse if you want to. If you get a question that's not a good question, you can still add more to it, and you can try to carry that's how people carry conversations if the questions aren't so good.
Yeah, that's how I deal with the socially awkward Zoomers that I love so much and that struggle a little bit. I carry the conversation for them, not because I'm extrovert. I just know how to. It's actually quite draining,
Yes.
but they just need a little help.
I agree. I know how to do it. It doesn't mean I want to.
That's right. No, team too heavy. Do not want to carry this hard. I want to give you leg up, not carry everyone.
Yeah. I already have enough soreness in my back from sitting all day and doing 300-pound deadlifts. I really don't want to add you to that load.
Wow, what a show off. Fair enough.
Well, hey, I got to brag a little bit, right? It is within every man to talk about himself at some level.
That's right. Yep. Well, that does that does sound like a good attitude to have. I want to help you out. Don't want to do everything for you. I want you to be able to carry
Right.
yourself after not too long here. Okay, kiddo.
Exactly.
I mean,
But that's down in the
that's sort of
man's
the point
soul.
of this podcast too. I mean, if we're going to try to build people up so that they can build society back up, then that's what we need, right? We need people who are going to actually be able to stand on their own.
And we need those who can carry a little bit of other people also to show them the way. And one of those great
Yep.
people is Sam. If you are having a little bit of struggle with getting yourself out the door, either mentally or verbally, give him a call if you are interested in a little bit of social coaching, or if you're a hot single woman. Either way, he'll be glad to take your call and take your money. No, I'm just kidding.
I will take your money and give it to the Nigerian prince I owe.
Oh boy. We'll make sure and get his Twitter link in the description here for everybody. I think. Do we want to give anyone homework before we wrap up? What's a good
Little bit
thing
of
for them to
homework.
Try? Yeah, we did last time. I think that was a good
Start
idea.
Start some visualization. If you are laying on your bed, this is something you can do. Is close your eyes, just tune out all your senses as much as you're able, and daydream about the character you want to be. And make that as visceral and emotional and real as possible.
And if you can, picture yourself doing it.
That's interesting.
Exactly.
Sounds like my artwork.
That is exactly it. That is the technique called visualization. And if you can't actually do something, that is the next best thing you can do.
Gotcha. Imagine as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Silver tier, I guess, would be in the mirror. See if you can practice those vocal exercises that Sam gave us. With both your after your visualization, then we'll go for the tone. You can write yourself out a script if you want. Do a fun radio voice. It's actually kind of fun if nobody's listening to you.
Right.
And yeah, how about gold tier? Try it on a person. Ask a few questions. That sound good? See if you can
That
get
sounds good. I like it.
See if you can get their motor mouth going. Start with the easy ones. Don't do it with your nerdy friends. Would you agree with that, Sam? Find an extrovert. You probably don't have as many extrovert friends if you're an introvert, but try and find them just because they're easier.
You'll almost certainly have one if you walk somewhere. If you go out at all, you'll almost certainly have one.
Yeah, talk to that really bouncy person on stage at worship. You know who I'm talking about. Everyone has one. Or a youth pastor. I mean, just to give it a try on him. I'm sure he can spare 5 minutes. They're always like that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'll have to tell you about some of the characters we have at my small group. We have a man who had got the nickname of Youth Pastor.
Oh my, skinny jeans for days.
Skinny jeans, tank tops, glasses, and attitude to match.
Oh boy. All right.
Good times.
Well, we're gonna try one example of that here before we wrap up for the day of asking an open-ended question. I'm gonna visualize myself as the mad scientist and practice my tonality and say, Sam, would you rather have unlimited bacon and no games, or unlimited games but no pizza? But no unlimited games but no bacon.
Well, I don't eat pork, so that one's a pretty easy choice.
Man, you're making this hard on me.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I'll try again. Travis, would you rather have unlimited games and no bacon, or unlimited bacon and no games?
Well, in my case, the answer is pretty similar. Not because I don't eat pork, but because, honestly, I would rather have games.
Wednesday at 7 p.m. next week. Travis will still be here in the studio with me. I believe Michael will be out and joining us remotely as we go on another adventure. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Right.
Give that homework a try. Let us know in the comments how it goes. And the obligatory like and subscribe. I'm sorry I have to say it, but it's in the contract. See you, everyone.